My name is Era Malloy, and I'm 57 years old. A week ago, my own daughter blocked me from attending her wedding. Not metaphorically, literally. Security, guest list. My name, removed. I've spent the last 7 nights with a glass in my hand, staring at the bottom of a bottle and asking myself one question on repeat. How did I become the monster in my own child's story? Ava is 27, my only child, and this wasn't just any wedding. This was her wedding that I was paying for. I told myself it was a gift, a way to bless her new beginning. Her fiancé, Matt, doesn't earn much yet, and Ava has only recently gotten stable work. They couldn't afford the kind of celebration she'd always dreamed of. So I stepped in. I'll handle the big stuff, I told her when she showed me mood boards of fairy lights and dusty rose bridesmaid dresses, venue, catering, decorations. Consider it my wedding present. She'd given me a quick, almost reluctant hug. Thanks, Mom, she'd said, like I'd just handed her a glass of water and not tens of thousands of dollars. That should have been my first warning sign. Still, when she told me she was finally settling down with someone she loved, after years of chaos, bad friends, and worse choices, I felt relief more than anything. Relief that maybe, just maybe, this was the turning point. I booked the venue, paid the deposits, smiled through the stress. It felt like buying my way into a peaceful future. Then, 3 days before the wedding, I decided I wanted to add one person to the guest list, my brother. I picked up the phone and called the wedding planner. Hi, this is Era Malloy, Ava's mother. I need to add my brother to the guest list. There was a pause on the other end. Ms. Malloy, he said carefully, the guest list is already at maximum capacity. I frowned. I'm paying for a venue that seats 250. We're at what, 200? Just add one more chair. Another pause. Longer this time. Ma'am, it's not about the number. It's the final list is locked. I can't make changes without the bride's approval. Something in his tone made my stomach tighten. Send me the list, I said. The whole guest list. Ma'am, I'm not sure I'm allowed. I'm the one paying, I cut in, my voice sharper than I intended. Send me the list, or I'll speak to your manager. A long exhale, then, all right, ma'am, I'll email it to you. When the email came through, my heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I scrolled. Friends, bridesmaids' partners, Matt's coworkers I'd never met, distant acquaintances I hadn't heard Ava mention in years. And then I realized what I didn't see. My name, Marcus's name, nothing. I scrolled again, slower this time, my fingers starting to shake. Maybe I'd missed it. Maybe there was a typo. Maybe Era was spelled wrong. Nothing. It was like I'd been erased. My throat went dry. I called the planner back, the guest list still open on my phone, my reflection staring back at me in the black edges of the screen. There has to be some mistake, I said, hearing the panic slip into my voice. My name isn't on the list. Neither is my husband's. We're her parents. He was quiet for a moment, then cleared his throat. Ms. Malloy, Ava instructed us not to include you or Mr. Malloy on the guest list. I felt like someone had punched the air out of my lungs. What? She also, specified that security was to be informed, he continued carefully, that you were not to be allowed inside the venue under any circumstances. I remember leaning against the kitchen counter, fingers digging into the granite just to stay upright. You're saying my daughter told you to keep me out of her wedding? The wedding I'm paying for? He sounded genuinely uncomfortable. Ma'am, I can forward you the email chain if you'd like. Do it, I whispered. 2 minutes later, I was staring at Ava's words in black and white. Please ensure my mother, Era Malloy, and her husband, Marcus Malloy, are not included on the guest list or allowed into the venue. Tighten security at the entrance if necessary. No explanation, no hesitation, just instructions. I didn't cry right away. First, there was this numb, hollow silence in my head. Then, very slowly, the anger crawled in. I called Ava, straight to voicemail. Of course, it was her bachelorette weekend. Hi, it's Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Call me back, now. This is serious. She didn't call back that day, or the next. By the third day, with the wedding looming like some dark cloud on the calendar, I couldn't stand it anymore. I drove to her apartment, the one she shared with Matt, my hands clenched around the steering wheel. The wedding planner had told her I'd seen the list. That's why she was avoiding me. She opened the door a crack when I knocked. For a second, I saw the little girl I used to tuck into bed. Then her face hardened. What are you doing here? She asked flatly. We need to talk, I said, about the guest list. She stepped aside just enough for me to enter. The living room was cluttered with boxes, ribbons, half-open garment bags. A veil draped over the back of a chair. It looked like a fairy tale in progress. Except I was the dragon. I turned to her, my heart racing. Ava, why am I not invited to your wedding? Her arms folded across her chest. Well, good for you, she said, eyes cold. Now you don't have to waste time or energy traveling to the venue. I'll send photos if I have time. It felt like she'd slapped me. You're serious, I whispered. You told strangers to block your own mother at the door. She rolled her eyes. Don't be dramatic, Mom. I just don't need your negativity ruining my day. Negativity. A laugh broke out of me, hysterical and ugly. I'm paying for your wedding, Ava. She shrugged. You owe me that much. Something inside me snapped. Owe you? My voice cracked. After everything I've done for you, the rehab, the late-night calls, the messes I cleaned up, I owe you? Her jaw clenched. You think throwing money at me makes you a good mother? You paraded Marcus in my face like some replacement. You never took my side, not when I was fighting with people, not when I was in trouble. You always chose him. You always chose everyone but me. That's not true, I said, tears stinging my eyes. I didn't defend you when you were bullying your cousin. I couldn't defend you when you were sneaking pills into school. You were wrong, Ava. You hurt people. Her face twisted. There it is. You always have a list of my sins ready, don't you? This isn't about lists, I whispered. This is about you cutting me out of the most important day of your life. Ava, what did I do that was so unforgivable? She stared at me like I was something disgusting stuck to her shoe. You remarried, she said quietly, venom in every syllable. You brought that man into my life. You made a new family and expected me to clap for you. Marcus, the man who'd spent years defending her when I couldn't. The one she called a gold digger behind our backs. I married 5 years after your father left, I said, voice trembling. I was alone with you for years, Ava. I thought when you grew up you'd understand I'm a person too, that I deserve a partner. Well, I don't, she snapped. So do us both a favor. Stay away from my wedding. Live your happy little life with Marcus and leave me out of it. I felt something inside me crumble, the anger, the hurt, the exhaustion of 27 years of trying to hold this fractured bond together. If that's how you feel, I said quietly, then I won't be paying for the wedding anymore. Her eyes widened for a split second, then narrowed. You're not doing me a favor, she shot back. You owe me this era. You were a terrible mother. Paying for my wedding is the least you can do. That did it. I don't owe you anything, I whispered, voice shaking. I love you. I have always loved you. But this, I gestured around at the boxes, the dress bag, the fantasy. This was a gift, and you used it as a weapon. Get out, she said. You're making everything about you, as usual. I walked out before she could see me break. At home, I made it as far as the living room before I shattered. I sank onto the couch and sobbed, like I hadn't sobbed since the day her father left. Marcus found me there, red-eyed and shaking. What happened? He asked, kneeling in front of me, his hands on my knees. She blocked us from the wedding, I choked. Told the planner to keep us out. Called you a problem, called me a terrible mother. Said I owe her. I watched something harden in his face. Marcus, who was usually calm, gentle, endlessly patient, looked genuinely furious. She can't keep doing this to you, he said quietly. To us. Era, you've done everything for her. There has to be a line. And in that moment, raw, humiliated, and shaking, I drew it. 15 minutes later, I was on the phone with the venue. This is Era Malloy, I told them. The one paying for the booking. Yes, Ms. Malloy, how can we help you? I want to cancel. I knew I'd lose most of the money. I knew it would cause chaos. I knew I was lighting a match and throwing it into her perfect little fairy tale. But I couldn't keep funding my own erasure. As I hit end call, guilt and grim satisfaction warred inside me. For the first time in years, I wasn't just absorbing the blow. I was delivering one. And I had no idea just how messy her wedding day and our lives were about to become. If you're still here, thank you. Because to understand what happened on Ava's wedding day, you need to understand the years that led to it. People love simple stories. Ungrateful daughter. Overbearing mother. But our story was never simple. It was a slow-burning tragedy, one no one saw until it exploded. The past that wouldn't stay buried. Ava didn't start out as my enemy. She began as the little girl whose hair I braided every morning before school, whose drawings filled my refrigerator, whose laughter used to shake the walls of our tiny starter home. Then her father left. She was 7. He said he was pursuing new opportunities in Europe. but opportunities don't usually involve leaving your daughter behind with no fight for custody, no shared holidays, no late-night calls. For the first 2 years, he mailed occasional gifts, a sweater, a bracelet, a postcard from Berlin. Then even those stopped. I spent half a decade raising her alone. I worked, cooked, held her when she cried, shielded her from the truth of a man who abandoned her. But abandonment leaves a scar that keeps bleeding. When I remarried and the rift began, I met Marcus Malloy when Ava was 11. We married when she was 13. Marcus was a high school teacher, a calm, soft-spoken man who grew up in a refugee shelter after his family fled a war-torn region in the Middle East. He built his life from the ground up, scholarships, night shifts, a master's degree in education. Ava never saw the resilience. She saw a threat. "You're replacing Dad," she once hissed when Marcus tried to help her with algebra. We both told her he wasn't. She didn't believe it. Over the years, Marcus tried everything. Gentle hikes, cooking nights, even building a bookshelf in her room because she once said she liked the vibe of bookstores. She didn't say thank you. She called him a wannabe father and slammed her door. It only got worse from there. Teenage Ava, rage with sharp edges. At 15, she fought with my niece so viciously that my sister begged me to take Ava back early from her stay at their house. "They're like cats and dogs," she complained. "I can't protect my daughter from this anymore." I brought Ava home and told myself it was just a phase. Then came the pills, sneaking out, failing grades, a boyfriend who was expelled for dealing. When I confronted her, she screamed, "You're ruining my life!" But she was already ruining her own. She begged to live with my parents instead, claimed my home was toxic. I let her go, thinking maybe distance would help. It didn't. My parents caught her sneaking out every night after they went to bed, running around with the wrong crowd. Her grades tanked. She repeated a year. Getting her into college required every favor I could call in from old colleagues. Even in college, she relapsed. Once, twice, then again. Rehab became a revolving door. And through it all, Marcus stood by me. Never once suggesting I give up on her. Never complaining about the emotional storms she dragged through our home. He saw the good in her even when I couldn't. But Ava, she crafted a story in her mind. Era Malloy failed me. Marcus replaced my father. Everything bad in my life is their fault. She carried that story like a weapon, sharpening it year after year. Back to the present, after the explosion. After I canceled the wedding venue, news traveled fast. The wedding planner called first, frantic. "Ms. Malloy, the vendors are confused. The caterers were turned away. Are you sure?" "Yes," I said, "it's canceled." Then came Ava, or rather, her attempts to reach me. 16 calls, a dozen texts I didn't open, angry voicemails that stabbed through the speaker. I blocked her number, not out of fear, but out of self-preservation. The girl who answered the door that day, she didn't come to talk. She came to destroy. And I wasn't going to let her tear open wounds that had barely begun to scar. I removed her access to the gated community, not because she was dangerous, but because her words were. Her anger was a wildfire that burned everything in its path. My parents step in and get burned too. My parents, in their late 70s, couldn't believe it when they heard what happened. "Era, children make mistakes," my father said. "We can't be ruthless with them," my mother added. They visited Ava. She threw them out, not politely, not with hurt feelings, but screaming, accusing them of colluding with me, blaming them for reporting her drug use in high school, which they never did. The real informant? Her teacher, one I used to go to the gym with. When my parents came back, shaken and close to tears, something inside me solidified. "Era," my father said quietly, "you were right." Those words broke me more than Ava's hatred, because for the first time, someone else saw the monster she had become. Still, I felt the guilt. I won't pretend I acted with perfect morality. Canceling the wedding hurt her, deeply. It hurt her fiancé. It humiliated her in front of friends. But I had spent decades swallowing pain to protect her from consequences, and maybe that was my mistake. I wasn't trying to teach her a lesson. I wasn't trying to get revenge. I was trying to survive the emotional hurricane that was my daughter. And when people ask why I'm writing this, it's because the guilt still gnaws at me. Even after everything she said, everything she did, she's still my child. And every mother knows, even when your child strikes the match, you still feel responsible when everything burns down. But I had no idea that the downfall of her wedding was only the beginning. Months from now, I'd get a phone call that would change everything. From someone I never expected. A year passed. Not peacefully, just quietly. Like the silence after a tornado. when the world pretends to stand still, even though everything inside you is still shaking. I hadn't spoken to Ava since the wedding disaster. She married Matt in a small private ceremony with only their closest friends. No family, no parents, not even his. My niece later told me through whispers that Ava had moved to another city, a new job, a new apartment, a fresh start without the people she blamed for her old life. I told myself I accepted it. I told everyone I had moved on. But the truth? Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jolted, a pathetic little spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, she was reaching out. She never did. The call that broke the quiet. A week ago, my phone rang from an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it, but something, mother's instinct maybe, made me pick up. "Hello?" I answered. A man exhaled shakily on the other end. Is this Mrs. Malloy?" My chest tightened. "Yes, who's calling?" It's Matt. Ava's husband. The last voice I ever expected to hear. Immediately, panic clawed up my throat. "Is Ava okay?" I demanded. "Did something happen to her?" She's fine," he said quickly. "Nothing serious, but we need to talk, in person." In person? My pulse throbbed in my ears. Why? What happened? "I'll explain when we meet," he said. "I'm in your city for work. If you're available, maybe dinner tonight?" That tiny spark, the one I had tried to kill all year, flared with bright, blinding hope. "Ava wants to see me. She's ashamed. She's afraid. She's using Matt as a bridge. She wants to reconcile, but doesn't know how." I found myself saying, "Yes, of course, tell me when and where." And for the first time in a long time, I felt light. The hope dies quickly. I arrived 10 minutes early. Every minute, my eyes flicked to the restaurant door, expecting to see my daughter walk in with Matt, wringing her hands, eyes red. But when Matt finally entered, he was alone. No Ava. No second footsteps behind him. The hope inside me, that foolish, stubborn thing, collapsed. He sat across from me, looking exhausted in a way no man in his 20s ever should. His shoulders slumped like he was carrying boulders. "Where's Ava?" I asked softly. He looked down at his hands. "I don't know." My breath caught. "You don't know?" He swallowed hard. "We're separated, have been for months." The truth about their marriage. Then it all spilled out. At first it was small things. Cold shoulders, silent treatments, jealousy, snide remarks. But soon it became darker. "Ava has anger issues," he said quietly, staring at the table instead of at me. "Real ones. She'd throw things, smash things, break plates over nothing." I felt myself shrink inside. She hit the wall once, near my head. "Not at me," he added quickly, as if protecting her even now. "But it scared me." He talked for nearly 20 minutes. Her rage, her accusations, her unpredictability, her refusal to take responsibility for anything. And worst of all, the manipulation. "She convinced me that you and Marcus were cruel to her," he whispered, "that you'd replaced her dad, that you judged her, that you wanted to control her life. I believed her. I'm ashamed that I believed her." My throat tightened painfully. "It's not your fault," I said gently. "Ava can be persuasive when she's in pain." He nodded, eyes glassy. I stayed longer than I should have. I kept thinking she'd calm down, or apologize, or try therapy. She didn't. She blamed me for everything, even things out of my control. A long silence. Then he said the words that made my stomach drop. "She begged me to take her back, but I can't. Not after everything. I don't love her anymore." I closed my eyes. For once, I couldn't even blame him. Why he really came to see me. "Mrs. Malloy, I asked to meet you for a reason," he said, sitting straighter. "Ava has no friends left. She burned every bridge. She's alone, and she refuses to get help." My heart cracked. "I want to help her," he continued, voice trembling. "I think she needs therapy, real therapy. But she won't listen to me, and you're still her mother. You're the only one she might hear." The words hit me like a punch. Me, her mother, the one she blamed for everything. He wanted me to walk into the fire again. But how could I say no? After everything, after the wedding, the fighting, the hatred, she was still my child. And a mother's heart doesn't follow logic, it follows blood. "I'll try," I whispered. He exhaled with relief. "I'm sorry for everything she put you and Marcus through," he said. "I should have stepped in earlier." "We all should have done something earlier," I murmured, facing my daughter again. The next morning I drove to her apartment. I didn't take Marcus, not because he was afraid, but because I didn't want him to hear the things she might say. I knocked. She opened the door halfway. Her hair was messy, her eyes swollen, her face pale and furious. "What do you want?" she spat. "Ava, I'm here to talk. Just talk." "No," She tried to shut the door. I put my hand against it. Please, I whispered, let me help you. She stared at me with pure venom. I hate you, she hissed. I hate him even more. I swear, Era, I hate Marcus so much I could kill him. That was when I realized something terrifying. This wasn't anger. This wasn't resentment. This was illness. A wound that had festered too long, turning into poison. She launched into a tirade, clawing through old memories, twisting them, blaming me for every misfortune in her life. You ruined everything, she yelled. You and your stupid new husband, you destroyed my childhood, my future, my marriage. I wish you had never remarried. I wish he was dead. I wish... Enough, I choked out, voice breaking. Ava, you need help, a therapist, something, please. Get out of my house, she screamed. And she shoved me. Hard. The door slammed. The lock clicked. Silence. I stood there, shaking, staring at the wood grain as if it might open again. It didn't. Trying one last time. I drove home on autopilot. Marcus met me at the door, worry etched deep into his face. I couldn't speak. I just collapsed into his arms. She hates me, I whispered. She hates you. She needs help, but won't take it. Marcus stroked my hair. Then maybe we find someone she will listen to. And that was when he reminded me of the one person Ava had never fought with. Her childhood best friend, now living in South Africa. Desperate, I reached out. She responded within minutes. Of course I'll help. She called Ava, and somehow, miraculously, Ava listened. She agreed to try therapy. The final visit. A week later, my parents visited Ava. For the first time in years, she apologized. To them, not to me. But it was something. She told them therapy made her realize how deep her anger ran, how much she couldn't control it. But then she added, I'm never forgiving my mother. Everything bad in my life happened because of her. My parents told me gently afterwards. Tears in their eyes, pain in their voices. I didn't cry. Not then. I waited until everyone was asleep, then slipped into the bathroom, locked the door, and fell apart silently against the tiled floor. The truth I eventually learned. Some children outgrow hatred. Some heal. Some find their way back. And some don't. Ava might never love me again. She might never forgive me. She might always see me as the villain in her story. And maybe I have to accept that. I still want her to heal. I want her to build a life she's proud of, even if I'm not part of it. Because being a mother isn't about being loved. It's about loving. Sometimes from a distance. Sometimes with a broken heart. Sometimes with no hope of getting anything back. I don't despise my daughter. I just wish her well, even if I'm not in her well-being.